There's a scene almost every parent of a baby has lived through. You put your baby down for exactly 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds. You're not leaving them somewhere unfamiliar. You're not going far. You're just moving them from your arms to the crib, the bed, the swing, or into someone else's arms. And almost immediately, they start twisting, frowning, and then crying like something has gone very wrong. You pick them up, they calm down. You put them down, they cry again. Pick them up, calm. Put them down, crying. After enough days like that, a lot of parents end up with the same conclusion. My baby is getting spoiled. My baby is too used to being held. My baby just won't learn to be put down. But infant psychology tells a very different story. The most common theory sounds simple. Babies want to be held because it's warm, because they like your smell, or because they've gotten too used to being in your arms. And yes, warmth, scent, heartbeat, and your voice all matter. But if this were only a bad habit, science would not keep finding such strong and consistent physical responses when babies are held, touched, or separated from familiar interaction. Research on attachment and co-regulation shows that for a baby, a caregiver's body is not just comforting in a vague emotional way, it is often part of the baby's actual regulation system. In very simple terms, many babies do not just like being held. Their bodies literally function better when they're close to a trusted caregiver. And that's where this gets much deeper. Babies are born with very limited ability to regulate themselves. Adults can calm themselves down, wait a little longer, breathe through discomfort, or remind themselves that everything is okay. Babies can't do that. A very young baby cannot organize their feelings, body state, and sense of safety the way an older child or adult can. That means in the first months of life, a caregiver is not just feeding them or changing them. The caregiver is acting like an external regulation system. Parents and babies regulate emotion, behavior, and even parts of physiology together. The baby cannot yet stand steady on their own emotionally, so they borrow stability from the adult. And that's where this gets much deeper. Babies seem to need to be held all the time. What you may be seeing is not manipulation. It is often a very immature nervous system looking for the exact thing that helps it feel organized and safe. Warmth, movement, skin contact, a familiar smell, a familiar voice, the pressure of being held close. To an adult, those things may just sound soothing. To a baby, they can be the difference between feeling overwhelmed and feeling settled. And if that sounds too emotional to be science, research on crying babies found something very interesting. When adults try to soothe a crying infant, walking while holding the baby works better than simply standing still holding them. A 2022 study found that about 5 minutes of carrying and walking helped reduce crying and made babies more likely to become sleepy, while just holding them motionless did not have the same effect. That matters because it suggests babies are not just demanding to be in your arms. Their bodies may be responding very specifically to the combination of closeness, movement, and physical contact as a way to reduce stress. But there's an even deeper layer. One of the most famous experiments in developmental psychology is the still face experiment. The setup is simple. A caregiver interacts normally with a baby, smiling, talking, responding, and then suddenly stops. The face goes blank, the emotional response disappears. What happens next has been studied for decades. The baby notices almost immediately. They try to pull the adult back into connection. They look harder, vocalize, smile, gesture. When nothing comes back, stress rises. Some babies cry. Some seem to shut down. The conclusion researchers drew from this was not simply that babies like attention. It was that babies are active participants in an ongoing emotional conversation with their caregivers. From very early on, they do not only need food and sleep, they need responsiveness, they need connection, and much of that connection happens through the body, the face, the voice, the rhythm, and the arms that hold them. That helps explain why a baby who always wants to be held may actually be expressing something much deeper than adults assume. They are not saying, "I want to control you." They may be saying, I still cannot regulate myself without your body helping me. I need your signals of safety. I need a mature nervous system to lean on. This is especially true when babies are tired, overstimulated, in a growth spurt, sick, uncomfortable, or moving through developmental changes that make the world suddenly feel like too much. There is another misunderstanding that comes up all the time. Many people worry that if you hold a baby too much, you will spoil them or make them dependent. But attachment research and infant crying studies point in a different direction. Sensitive, consistent responses to a baby's distress in early life do not spoil the baby. In fact, those responses are linked with more secure attachment and, over time, often less distress, not more. In other words, a baby needing to be held a lot in this stage does not automatically mean you are creating a problem. In many cases, you are responding to a very normal developmental need. And babies are different from toddlers in an important way. With toddlers, we can sometimes talk about power struggles, autonomy, and saying no. But with very young babies, the picture is more basic. This is a human being who cannot move away, cannot explain, cannot calm themselves, and for most of human history would have grown close to a caregiver's body almost constantly. Reviews on physical contact in early parent-baby relationships make this point very clearly. Touch, holding, and close body contact are not just sweet extras. They are part of bonding, part of regulation, and part of how babies experience safety. That also helps explain why some phases make babies seem even more needy. When babies become more aware of strangers, for example, they may cling more strongly to familiar caregivers. Pediatric guidance describes stranger anxiety and a stronger preference for familiar adults as a normal emotional milestone in the first year. Or when a baby is tired, uncomfortable, overstimulated, or their routine has been off, the need for body closeness may rise sharply. From the outside, it can look like they are demanding to be held all the time. From the inside, it may simply mean, today I need more closeness to feel okay. Of course, there is also a warning side to this topic. There is a difference between my baby loves being held and my baby is unusually hard to soothe in a way that worries me. If a baby is almost never comforted, cries in a way that seems extreme or prolonged, has signs of pain, feeds poorly, vomits often, has breathing trouble, fever, or anything else that feels medically off, then this is no longer just a story about wanting to be held. That is when your pediatrician matters most. And on the other side, if what worries you is not that your baby wants to be held a lot, but that they seem to seek very little connection at all, react very little to caregivers, or seem to look through people rather than toward them, that is also something worth discussing with a professional. Parents' instincts around early social development should not be ignored. So, what is a baby really saying when they need to be held all the time? A lot of the time, they are not saying, I'm spoiled, I'm making your life harder, I refuse to be put down. What they are saying is much closer to this. I can't regulate myself yet. I need familiar safety signals. I need your body to help my body calm down. I need closeness because the world still feels like too much without it. And sometimes, underneath all the crying that starts the moment you put them down, what your baby may really be saying is something very simple. I can't do this alone yet. So the next time your baby comes instantly when you pick them up and starts crying again the second you set them down, try to remember that you may not just be looking at a difficult habit. You may be looking at an immature nervous system reaching for the very thing that helps it stabilize best. You may be watching attachment work exactly the way it was designed to work. And what looks from the outside like always wanting to be held may mean something much deeper on the inside. I need to borrow your comb until I can build my own. If this changed how you see your baby's need to be held, subscribe and tell me in the comments, when does your baby need you most? And if your baby cries the second you leave their sight, that's exactly what the next video is about.